you very much for all the confessions that were sent in. Read them all this morning. Just to repeat.
Oh, no.
Just some basic rules. If your confession involves the breaking of law of any kind in this country, in this country particularly, foreign laws, debatable.
Really?
I don't know. Basically, they're not going to get on.
No, of course not. No.
That's just like a starting point.
Yeah.
Also, laxative confessions, not interested.
No.
Apart from those, carry on. confessions@greatesthitsradio.co.uk. No drinks trolley today because Sister Susie is under the weather. Get well soon, Sister Susie. We could have had a memorial drinks trolley, but let's just leave it in the saloon bar, which is where she's recovering. Anyway, tonight's confession is an anonymous confession, but let's say it's from Felicity. So I've just created Felicity instead of saying anon. Father Simon and the team, what kind of certificate should I give this? Probably a 12.
Ooh. I like that.
I've got your attention now, have I? So Sister Holly is obviously playing the role of Sister Susie again.
Yes.
In the responsibility chair. Father Simon and the team, I feel it might be time to confess my sins. I'm feeling a little sweaty and hot just thinking about what I'm about to confess to you. It's from a long time ago when my days consisted of looking after our small children, and every second of every single bit of time that we had, being a grown-up counted as a win. Myself and my husband's indulgence was at a local health spa and a health club. The spa shall remain nameless, as am I. We would sneak off, leaving the babysitter in charge, to go to our health club for evenings of relaxation and maybe even a little swimming. Not an armband, swim nappy or inflatable crocodile in sight, just pure indulgence. One particular night we entered the pool area to find there was no one in the pool. Also, the hot tub was empty. There was literally no one about. Absolutely no one. This wasn't an unusual occurrence for later in the evening at said anonymous club. But hey, we thought, with glee, our own private swimming pool and private spa. Look, I said to my anonymous husband, obviously he's not anonymous.
No, obviously.
To Felicity, for our purposes. Look, I said to my husband, donning my new sparkly, shiny tinted goggles, how cool are these? No sign of dinosaur eyes or mermaid-shaped lenses here. We jumped into the pool and I peered around underwater. The tinted lens made the pool seem rather gloomy. Whoosh! I pushed off from the side and propelled myself along under the water. I enjoyed the weightlessness of my body, and out of the gloom I saw my husband's white skinny legs paddling above. In a split second, without another thought or care, whoosh! I had those black Speedos down round his ankles. He didn't know what was happening.
No, he didn't, did he?
Laughing and spluttering, Oh, you're ahead of me. Laughing and spluttering, I came to the surface and met eye to eye with a complete stranger.
Yes, of course.
And not my husband at all. I stared into the man's terrified eyes as my cackling faded away. In that moment, I swear I saw terror, bewilderment, anger, embarrassment, and then more terror. Who was this mad woman? Is what his face was saying to me. So I did what every self-respecting woman in my circumstance would have done. I went back under the water, swam to the side, dropped the Speedos, made a quick exit, hid in the changing rooms.
She's still on the Speedo!
Yeah.
She was holding them.
She took them with her.
Took them with her. Well, that's what you have to do, because it was a clean break. That's what,
Of course.
that's
Right.
what it does. I'm having those. Whoosh. Dropped the Speedos, made a quick exit, and I hid in the changing rooms until the spa closing time. My husband, who was unaware of what had happened, was sitting patiently in the lounge area waiting for me. He obviously had enough. Quickly, I gasped, run! Quick, hurry! And we ran from the building, and that's the end of this ghastly tale. However, I seek forgiveness from the poor man whose Speedos were whipped off in seconds by a complete stranger. In my defence, I didn't think there was another human being that actually dared to wear skimpy, hideous black swimwear in public. But, sir, you know who you are, and I apologise profusely. But really, what are the chances of the only other man in the pool having the same white pasty legs as your husband? Anyway, God bless. Father Simon and the team, please forgive me. Anonymous, let's say Felicity, from the deepest Cotswolds. P.S. Another confession is that when I read out this confession to my husband before emailing it in, I left out the bit about his white skinny legs.
Yeah.
But I just thought I'd put those in. Anyway, it's what I know that you could tell where this one was heading as soon as the sort of fairly sparse pool was mentioned. But anyway, Felicity's other half comes out of it quite well because he wasn't there. It's the anonymous man with the same rather feeble legs. Anyway, Sister Holly, the voice of responsibility today.
Well, Felicity, it was a risky move. It was a bold move. And, I respect the boldness of it. She just went for it. And I get that. And she was going for it. The fact that she took the Speedos with her, I thought they would be like at the ankles. I didn't realise she was actually almost taking them along.
Make a clear statement.
Yes, just taking them along.
Having those.
And for that reason, I just can't forgive, because I just feel really sorry for the poor guy in the pool.
Whoever he is.
That must have been really shocking and a little bit embarrassing as well, just for everyone involved, for him too. So for that reason, can't forgive.
Brother from another gutter.
Well, I'm going to forgive, and obviously, I love the twist of take the Speedos with you. Why not? Yeah, I'm having them, and then I'm leaving them over there. So you're now going to have to cross the pool to get your own Speedos back. But maybe we're neglecting to realise that, swimming pools, it's after dark, and maybe normal rules don't apply because, when the night goes down and the lights go on in the pool.
You haven't gone swimming for a while.
Not quite, but maybe it does happen. And if you've got your Ernie Wise legs on, even better. So for that reason, I'm going to forgive.
Okay, so it's the people's verdict, please. Do you forgive Felicity, yes or no? 61054 on the text. Start your message with Simon. We had a confession just before the news from Felicity. She and her husband were alone in a swimming pool at a local spa, or so she thought. So when she was swimming underwater with her not very good goggles on, and she saw the pasty legs of her husband, she thought it would be hilarious to whip off his Speedos. Of course, it wasn't her husband. It was a strange man. We don't know who he was. It was just someone who turned up when no one was looking. Anyway, that's the substance of it. Then she took the Speedos, dropped them somewhere, and she and her husband kind of hid until it was all over. Anyway, the people's verdict is in. Here it comes.
So Ronald in Hartlepool, I forgive Felicity. The guy was wearing Speedos. A tragic coincidence. Polly in Wakefield, whilst I feel for the guy, this confession had me in tears laughing. And Vicky in Northampton says, I do feel slightly sorry for the owner of the pasty skinny legs. He must have been genuinely mortified. But after all, Speedos should be classed as a crime against humanity. So when you think about it, Felicity was providing a public service, improving the bathing experience of others, one pair of Speedos at a time. P.S. I'm slightly concerned about Matt's ideas of swimming pool etiquette.
Well, which is fair enough. Of course, there are some swimming areas, I believe in France, where you have to wear Speedos.
Yes, they come after you if you don't.
Which is against your human rights.
Oh, is it really?
It should definitely be. You should take it to the court.
To the court.
I insist on wearing
to the court
Bermuda shorts or baggy things. Anyway, if you have a confession and you'd like to swap it for a smart speaker, let us know. Send it to confessions@greatesthitsradio.co.uk.
Not a hi-hat, Simon. It's an electronic snare.
What did you think, Suze? Anyone else want to tell me off? Obviously, it was a snare.
I don't think it was either, because it's all electronic.
All out the keyboard. That's quite right.
Yeah.
That's what I would think. Anyway, thank heaven, saved by the trolley. Again, David Jacobs Memorial Drinks Trolley. What have we got from there?
Well, I've got a nice gin today, and Matt will like this one. It's called Malfi. It's perfect. Go and get it now for spring and summer later on, because it's from the Italian Amalfi Coast, and it makes an excellent gin and tonic, nice and citrusy, and it's also lovely in an Italian 75 if you've got Prosecco and limoncello.
There's the full Monty there. And the hi-hat.
Delicious.
Okay. So today, not only, so it's a slightly unusual confession. Not only do we have Sister Holly and Sister Susie and Brother Matthew, but also Ricky, who sends in the confession, isn't sure it's a confession at all. So 2 things you have to work out. 1, is it a confession? 2, if it is he forgiven? If it's not, then obviously the second question doesn't arise. Father Simon, Brother Matt, Sister Susie, and obviously Sister Holly, but I didn't know about her when I sent the email. Just extemporizing. This email comes to you out of concern, which, if you ask some, could possibly be a confession. Maybe you can help. Take about 15 years, different times. Actually, not really. When I was in here's the first clue. I was in a semi-serious relationship with a lady. Okay. Let's call her Vicky, not her real name. Yes, it's Ricky and Vicky. We'd been dating for a few years. We're just into our 3rd year, actually. I'd met her family, including her parents. We'd spent holidays together, and we're going through the motions. But there was, Father Simon, just no real spark as such. Even after 2 years, the L word, that's love Matt, not Liverpool. That's what it says.
Okay, really?
Had never been mentioned, and in my mind wasn't even a thought. Plus, she lived over an hour away by car. Wasn't going to last, although it had been more than 2 years. I started to think that the relationship had run its course, Father Simon, but not actually risen to the challenge of ending it just yet. So when I was staying at her home one wet weekend in a desperate attempt for us to get out of the house, I made a suggestion that it would be fun to take a look around the new homes that were being built on an estate close by. We drove down there, gave a fictitious name, fictitious phone number and fictitious earnings to the sales executive, and we spent some time looking around the show homes that we could never afford. Harmless fun. In my mind, no big deal really. It was simply window shopping. I think that's obvious. Anyway, the next weekend, I finally plucked up the courage and ended the relationship. Job done. Well done me. Eventually. Wind forward a few months later, and I meet the woman who I will eventually marry and be the mother of my son. I think you meant our son, but anyway. And we recap on our old relationships, and I relive this particular event. And this triggered my now wife to scream with complaints about how on earth could I have treated my ex like that. Taking her to look at new houses, she must have thought I was going to propose or at least buy a house together. Personally, I found this unbelievable. How could anyone think that? This was outrageous, verging on comical. How could Vicky have thought that there was more to it just because we were going around the house together? The relationship was quite obviously fizzling out. I mean, come on. As I was still in touch with a work colleague who also knew Vicky, I asked for a second opinion and exchanged with her how I thought looking at houses was harmless. Weirdly, she confirmed that after Vicky and I broke up, Vicky had spoken to my work colleague and explained that we were no longer an item, and that Vicky was devastated as she was convinced we would grow old together as we had gone house hunting. What I thought was harmless fun, she had clearly misunderstood. Therefore, initially I seek the collective's opinion on A, whether, like me, the house viewing is merely a bit of harmless fun and something to do on a wet afternoon. Don't let me down, Matt.
Oh, goodness me. Oh, dear.
I know. Or B, if, as my colleague informed me, I had indeed led her down a path of hope and dreams, only to break her heart the weekend afterwards. If B, I'd be grateful for the collective's forgiveness, as this may go a small way to stopping my wife telling as many people as possible the story of how her husband can be an insensitive, insert rude word here. Not that she has ever experienced it, says Ricky. I also understand that Vicky didn't have another relationship for many years afterwards. I await the... He just throws that one in.
Wow.
I await the compassion of the collective. Well, I'm not sure you're going to get much, would be my instant judgment, Ricky. Let's check in with Sister Susie, first of all.
Well, Ricky, I can't believe this, really. Just 3 years. You spent 3 years together and you weren't that serious. You didn't think it was going anywhere. So what on earth were you doing in the first place? Wasting both of your time, I think, is the answer to that question. I do think you need forgiveness for this. I do think it is a confession because, yeah, especially looking at houses, I bet she was like, oh, I'm in here, and I just don't think you just weren't very nice, and I'm not going to give you forgiveness because I think it was really mean. You wasted everyone's time. Not forgiven from me.
Sister Holly.
Looking at houses sounds like a really fun thing to do, but you've both really got to be on the same page. And I think this was a discussion that should have been had. He obviously felt that, we're just having fun and like this isn't very serious. But she may not have thought that, obviously didn't. Should have had that discussion. It didn't happen. Yes, this is a confession. No, I don't forgive, because obviously there was some miscommunication there.
Don't let him down, says Ricky to Brother
Well, I mean, here's the thing: is obviously, if a relationship isn't working, then it's best to find a way of bringing it to a close, I imagine. And so, but it strikes me that looking around the house sounds like a fun thing to do, and everyone. I mean, Vicky knew as she was going into the house that they were giving fake names and fake income, so she knew it was all a bit of fun. And so I definitely think it's a confession.
And so,
but I'm going to forgive, because I think really Vicky she dodged a bullet there, didn't she? Didn't end up with Ricky or indeed anyone else for quite a while. But that's beside the point. I think well done to Vicky. You'll find someone who doesn't treat you like Ricky. So there you go. And he doesn't rhyme with your name. So that's even a bigger plus.
Yeah.
Never go out with someone that rhymes with your name.
No.
So the crucial thing is, do you forgive Ricky? Yes. So do you? Is it a confession, and do you forgive him?
Yes.
2 things, please, on the People's Verdict. 61054, first word is Simon. Is that a confession, and do you forgive him? I suspect the answer is yes and no. Unless you're mad, obviously. 61054, first word is Simon. The People's Verdict, please. Forgiven or not? We had a confession just before 6. Sad tale of Ricky and Vicky. They split up, but only after Ricky had gone round houses and made Vicky think that they were about to embark on a serious relationship. So 2 questions. Was it a confession? And also, what did we think of the verdict?
So no one is forgiving tonight. There's no I agree with Matt's tonight. Sarah from Devon says, not forgiven. Oh my word. Totally self-centered idiot. Definitely a confession and definitely not forgiven. Johnny in Salford, not forgiven. Ricky completely strung her along. They'd been together for years and even met each other's parents. Sounds like more than a semi-serious relationship to me. And finally, Bill in Blythe says, not forgiven. He really wasted that poor lady's time. And not just 10 minutes of it. I really hope she found someone who treats her the way she deserves. Hashtag not today, Ricky.
Here's the thing. After 2 years plus, how can it be semi-serious? Anyway. But anyway, Ricky gets the smart speaker. So, a small compensation, obviously. Send your confession, please, if you have one. Maybe we were thinking about estate agents or house visiting, something like that. If you've got a story for us, confessions@greatesthitsradio.co.uk. As you know, it's a very important time because it's the drinks trolley time. Thank you. You can leave it there, Sir David. Susie, what have you plucked from the nether regions of our drinks trolley today?
I've grabbed a cider today. It's called Welsh Mountain Cider, which, as you might have guessed, is made in the Welsh Mountains.
I did get that.
Yeah.
Okay. X is a very good choice.
Very tasty.
Pass them around. Thank you very much. Today's confession comes from Colin. Certificate PG.
Ooh.
Simon in the Confessional Collective. Although happily retired now, back in 2006, I was a member of the design team for a new spa development in a UK city, which we'll call Spa B. However, in development terms, Spa B was a few years behind another spa development in a nearby UK city, which we'll call Spa A.
Okay.
The curtains are being
Yeah, they really are, aren't they?
closed on this. Quite by chance, I received a telephone call from the editor of a construction industry publication who asked if I'd like an all-expenses-paid trip to Spa A within a few days of it opening. However, there's no such thing as a free lunch, and I was asked if I'd write an article for publication describing my experience. However, he offered a small fee for my literary efforts, which made up my mind for me, so I readily agreed. Make it light-hearted and humorous, he said, and I thought, I can do humorous. Well,
Oh, really?
we'll be the judge of that. I mentioned my impending visit to Spa A to my client, who was the developer of Spa B. Pay attention. And he paused for a moment and then asked if I'd do them a small favour. Of course I will, I replied foolishly. We'd be grateful, he said, if you could take a sample of the spa water in Spa A and pass it to us. Now, I didn't ask too many questions, but I knew there was a debate about how each spa was treating its spa water to render it safe for bathing, as each was employing a different treatment method. And I assumed that this request was connected to this. Well, the thought of carrying out a petty minor bit of industrial espionage only spurred me on. So I asked a nursery friend of mine if she had a suitable sterilised specimen jar that she could provide me for my visit, and she duly obliged, providing me with a small transparent plastic vessel with a top that screwed on and unscrewed off. Okay?
Okay.
The day of my visit duly arrived, and I arrived at Spa A paying more attention than I would normally pay to the facilities around me, because I'd agreed to write about them afterwards. As for the water sample I'd promised to take, I didn't really feel comfortable holding the specimen jar in my hand as I entered the pool, so before I left my changing room cubicle, I put it in the only place available to me, the tiny pocket of my swimming trunks.
Oh, yes.
So this is the little pocket inside with a little kind of netting.
Of course.
Yeah? Walking around the edge of the pool with this additional appendage in my trunks made me feel rather uncomfortable, I have to say. So I didn't waste any time immersing myself in the pool waters, whereupon I discovered I felt just as uncomfortable because the air-filled specimen jar was very buoyant. And if I floated on my back, I was conscious that a certain part of my anatomy floated higher than the rest, looking rather like a three-dimensional, three-leafed fig leaf on the end of a very short twig.
Wow.
Yeah. Describe it like that.
However, I was in luck. There were only, now we've heard this before, and this week, there were only 2 people in the pool. Myself and a foreign female bather. And she was on the other side of the pool. I don't know how he knows foreign. Anyway, foreign female bather on the other side of the pool. However, as I rummaged in my pocket and withdrew the specimen jar from its gauzy confinement, the inevitable happened, and she made a beeline in my direction with the unerring accuracy and speed of a torpedo. At the moment I unscrewed and released the top of the specimen jar underwater, she was probably less than 6 feet from me. The pool was very quiet and the water as still as the proverbial mill pond until the top came off the specimen jar, when what seemed at the time like a seismic blast of air escaped and rushed to the water, where it broke wind in spectacular style with huge bubbles aplenty. Though this occurred 17 years ago, I've now never quite forgotten the look of disgust on the foreign female bather's face. The water sample was duly taken and I returned it to my pocket, eventually being passed to the developer of Spa B, who I suspect did diddly squat with it, and the article was duly written and published. But I seek forgiveness from the mystery woman bather, who must have formed a very poor opinion of British male bathers, and to the developer of Spa A, who I guess was the target of my feeble attempt at industrial espionage. But most of all, the great British public, although there's an L missing there, whose standards,
Really?
I must have dragged to a new depth in the eyes of this female bather. Well, it's a very good. I like that tale,
Very good.
particularly the very short twig. Sister Susie, what do you say?
Well, Colin, yeah, do you know what? You really cheered me up. That really made me laugh. The description of the fig leaf and is quite confusing and interesting way to describe it. But I feel like you should have known that there was air in the specimen jar. So obviously, what's going to happen when you put it underwater and unscrew it? It's going to cause bubbles. And I just don't think you should have been getting on with that. So I'm just not going to forgive.
Brother from another gutter.
I mean, of all the ways this could have gone, with him having to get something out of his trunks, I think they went the best possible way. So, I'm definitely going to forgive. I mean, he wasn't able to know that the woman was going to make a beeline for him in the middle of the pool. And who knew that spa water was different? I didn't think it was different to anything else. So, I'm going to forgive.
For no particular...
For no reason other than,
No reason whatsoever.
for the regular reason. Twig and clover reason.
Do you forgive Colin? 61054. First word is time. Tonight's confession from Colin. Another swimming pool confession involving some industrial espionage, a small transparent plastic vessel with air, and a foreign female bather who misunderstood the unscrewing of the top and the release of the gas, etc. Anyway, the people's verdict was asked for, and here it comes.
Well, most are forgiving tonight. John in Manchester, hilarious. I feel sorry for him. It's not like he himself broke wind in the pool. Could have happened to anyone.
Yes.
Mick in Sheffield, forgiven. How embarrassing. I feel sorry for him as well. I would have left the pool pretty sharpish if that had been me. But Trudy in Portsmouth says not forgiven. The random lady must have had a bit of a shock when she saw that. I imagine she'll be staying away from pools for some time.
Well, swimming pool confessions are quite a rich area. We'll have one of those. Also, if you've ever taken part in industrial espionage.
Yes. Please.
Without breaking the law, because
You know.
everything has to be legal
True.
in this country. If you've done it abroad, I don't know.
No.
Anyway, no, probably not. Wow, that's hard line from Matt.
Yeah.
Let us know. Confessions at greatesthitsradio.co.uk. Can we got the drinks trolley just wandering past? Sister Susie just grabbing something from the bottom row. What have you taken this time?
Well, it's St. Patrick's Day tomorrow, so it has to be a Guinness. Or, you know, if you fancy a Jameson's or a Bailey's instead, if Guinness isn't your thing, then they're quite tasty too.
Could I have a Diet Coke?
You could definitely have a Diet Coke,
Yeah,
that
why
works
not?
too.
Yeah.
So if you hear any noises during the confession, it's because the studio doors are open because of inclement weather
Down
in the
here.
basement of the studio, so it's very hot. So if there are any other voices, it's probably work people getting stuck in. Father, this comes from Cleo. Cleo, thank you very much indeed for today's confession. Father Simon and his Forgiving Collective. My confession happened some 15 years ago, and I feel that enough time has passed. And now is the time that I should fess up. The event in question took place at the annual village show. It was always a hotly contested show with vast amounts of cash and an array of silverware up for grabs. The photography section had two major prizes. One silver salver for the highest number of points awarded, and the second was for the best exhibit overall. It was taken very seriously, and the prestige with winning was immense. I wouldn't say that I was the next David Bailey, but I enjoyed photography, and over the years I had won the silver salvers on a number of occasions, says Cleo. It had become a closely fought competition between a small number of people, like golf. On this occasion, one of the subjects was entitled A Garden Visitor.
Okay.
That
Nice.
was the name of the project. Easy enough, I thought. And in the run-up to the show, I had been happily snapping a nest of young blackbirds in our garden. However, the more and more pictures I took of the birds, the more and more I became frustrated. It was all a bit brown and boring, with only their beaks for contrast. The search was on for something bigger and better. So I asked my husband for some inspiration. And more often than not, annoyingly, he has better ideas than me. Now, what he suggested, Father Simon, would definitely make a better picture, but there was a big issue with his suggestion. And that big issue was that the garden visitor in question, a bird, would have definitely visited a garden at some point in its life, but not now. Because now the bird in question lived in a large domed glass cage and was known to us as Barney the Owl, and was completely and truly stuffed. Barney the Owl had been in my possession since I purchased him from a taxidermist at a local county show a few years ago. Would this be acceptable? I asked myself over and over.
No.
So, rightly or wrongly, I carefully lifted the dome off and took Barney outside and arranged him in the hedge. Fortunately, the pins attaching him onto his plinth could not be seen, and if I'm honest, it did look good. I snapped away. I was onto a winner. After printing out the pictures, I still felt that this was not really the right thing to do, but on the other hand, it must have been a garden visitor at some time in its life, just a play on words. Father Simon, it was a competition after all. My mind was made up. It had to go in. On the day of the show, there was always a flurry of excitement in the hall, people eyeing up the competition as they entered their exhibits. As I handed my photos to the steward, I hesitated, worried that I might get disqualified for not fitting the brief. She perused my entries, and when she viewed my entry for The Garden Visitor, she paused, admiring the photo. My heart missed a beat, waiting for her comments. "Oh, look at that," the lady exclaimed in a high... "Oh, look at that," she said in a high-pitched voice when she saw Barney the Owl. "Was that in your garden?"
Wow.
It's lovely. Must have been friendly to stay still for so long. Yes, I said, stuttering, not wanting to engage in any conversation at all. I made my excuses and turned on my heels and hastily departed, still thinking to myself, should I just go and get the picture back? It was too late now. Others were already looking at it. I'm now going to pass it to Matt because I have a copy of the photo. There it is.
Goodness me.
That is the picture of Barney
yes.
the Owl in a tree.
Yes.
You would just think it's an ordinary owl.
Of course you would, yes. Very well done.
Yeah. After what seemed an extraordinarily long wait, the show opened at 2 p.m. once the judging had finished. I entered the hall, and as I headed for the photography section, I could see that I had won a number of first prizes in the other classes, which I was pleased about. And then my attention turned to the garden visitor entry. To my shock and disbelief, there, staring at me with his perfectly formed features, Barney the Owl had only gone and done it. First prize for garden visitor. I tried to hide my surprise, but then, Father Simon, worse was to follow, as Barney the Owl, yes, poor old Barney the Owl, had also scooped the prize for best exhibit in the whole of the photography competition. It was only now that I really, really regretted listening to my husband and entering the picture. A number of people had gathered round the photo and were making comments. I had one chap say to the other, "Look at that there owl, it looks stuffed to me."
Where are we again?
I haven't said.
Oh, good.
Fortunately, I haven't said.
Sounds like South Africa, but anyway.
No, came the reply. Look at its eyes, it's real bright. Yeah. They're real all right. There, look at the owl. Look at the owl's eyes.
Look at the owl.
They're real all right. It says here Suffolk, but I apologise.
Yeah.
So, Father Simon, I'm seeking your forgiveness from your collective, together with all of the other contestants at the photography section, who possibly could have won the Silver Salver if it wasn't for me winning both Silver Salvers. Also, I seek forgiveness from the judges who probably did believe it was real. But have I really committed a wrong deed? That's, that is also another one of the questions. Say, have I committed a wrong deed? Well, let's check in with judgment from Sister Susie.
Well, Cleo, I think you knew that you'd done something wrong, because you said all the way through that you wasn't sure it was the right thing to do, and your gut was telling you maybe not, and that is what you should have done. You shouldn't have entered it, because also you already won lots of other prizes, so why did you need another? And you could have let someone else have a go. So I'm sorry, Cleo. I think you shouldn't have listened to your husband. Maybe there's a lesson there, and not forgiven.
I'm looking at the photograph now, and to me, it looks like an owl has settled in the tree.
Yes.
And it doesn't look stuffed at all.
No.
Brother from another country?
I'm easily going to forgive on this on two counts. Number one, the title of it was A Visitor to the Garden, and it's visiting the garden. It's absolutely
she put it there.
fulfilled. Yeah. Well, she put it there, but that doesn't mean it's not visiting the garden. It's visiting the garden.
Wired to the
It's
branch.
wired to the branch. Doesn't matter. It's visiting the garden. And also, aren't they supposed to be judging how well the photo is taken? It's not just the subject. It's how well have you taken the photo? And clearly, they took the photo very well, so it's fine. It's absolutely fine. There's nothing to forgive.
Okay, people's verdict, please. Do you forgive Cleo, yes or no? You know how these village festivals are judged. An awful lot riding on it. Do you forgive Cleo, yes or no? On the text, please, 61054. First word is Simon. You can email simon@greatesthitsradio.co.uk. Cleo sent in today's confession about how she misled a village show. She won all the photography prizes for Barney the Owl, even though Barney the Owl was actually stuffed, and she had put it on a perch and tied it there. Anyway, she won, but it was her husband's suggestion. Maybe you might be thinking about that. Anyway, people's verdict is in like this.
David in Newcastle, no. I cannot forgive faking a photo for competition. It's bad enough people faking Aurora photos nowadays. Maria in Plymouth, I agree with Matt, not a phrase I've used before, but only because of the photography comment. That's what the competition was judging after all. However, I'm not forgiving because of taxidermy. Having dead animals staring at you is just weird. And Jerry says, forgiven, brilliant. They didn't say the creature had to be alive. What a hoot. Yeah.
Oh dear, you spoilt it there at the end. What a surprise. Anyway, your confession, please, to confessions@greatesthitsradio.co.uk.